Hey everybody, Always Bookin Comedy. It's Mark Masters. We got a special pre-taped episode here. I don't know what's happening in the future. I might be on an airplane. I might be at a show, but we do these pre-taped episodes every once in a while. It's Chuck Johnson from Summit Comedy Inc., who is in the Southeast. Am I making that up?
You are not making that up. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina. All right. I did a bunch of Zoom stuff in North Carolina, but have not really been there in person to do a lot of comedy. Florida, some Atlanta, Nashville. Haven't done a lot in North Carolina. So, Chuck, what is Summit Comedy?
Summit Comedy is a company that I formed 26 years ago. I was with the agency, the Comedy Zone, back in the 1900s, and was let go from them. I've only had one job after college. I graduated in 95, and I was hired as one of Carrot Top's college agents in the fall of 95, and I did that for about a year and a half, and then Carrot Top star was rising pretty fast at that time, and he kind of moved on from. He used to live in Charlotte, so that's kind of how I kind of got involved with that, and then I started booking the Comedy Zone chain with some other people that were involved there, and then was let go because of the Carrot Top money had dried up, and so I was 26 years old, recently engaged, and was forced to sink or swim in this business, and I started Summit Comedy, and again August of '98. So
quarter of a century.
It's funny. It's funny. The milestone this year was I started the company when I was 26. And then
the company
this year is now 26 years old.
Incredible.
So half of my life, I've kind of run this little baby of a comedy agency that I've been running for this amount of time. So
that's wild. Yeah. I was just in Vegas this weekend, and I was talking about Carrot Top. What an incredible show he puts on.
Absolutely.
He's supposed to be such a nice guy. I've never met him in person.
He really is. He doesn't get his due. I'm not like great friends with them per se, but obviously the history is there, and I've had nothing but positive experiences with Scott, and I always try to defend him when I hear somebody talking shit for whatever reason. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
great. Okay, so you start this company. You were a booker for a comedy chain. How big is Comedy Zone at that point? Are they national or are they regional?
They're mostly Southeast, and I don't know exactly what they do now. I know they're kind of spread out all over the place, but at that time in the mid '90s, comedy was like going pretty strong in that, and definitely in the Southeast. They just had a ton of one-nighters and weekend kind of anchored rooms, and they had a few week-long rooms like in Jacksonville, Florida, which they still have to this day. Charlotte, North Carolina. They still book the Atlantis and in the Nassau, Bahamas. So so we're just booking just tons of clubs, and I kind of cut my teeth in that, and I learned,
So what does that job entail? Like, are you evaluating talent, or are you just like the travel agent? Like, what is?
That was it. Was to be quite honest, it was me and a guy named Brian Heffron, who is now the owner of the Comedy Zone chain. He bought my original boss out of a business, and me and Heff, as he's known in the business, he and I would do everything from viewing the VHS tapes, submission tapes that came in.
Incredible.
We had a stack of VHS tapes we would just go through every morning over our coffee, and rank comics, and throw them in the good pile or the shit pile, and then just trying to weed them into our I guess the nightclubs and what lounges and such, everything that we had booked. There were so many different things. So then just booking the rooms, and acquiring new rooms, and then we were also doing the colleges and such too, because originally that's what I was signed on for. It made sense to the person that had hired me, a guy named Brad Greenberg. I think it was pretty smart of him. He hired this young kid out of college who used to book all the entertainment for his college. That's how I got into this business. So I was literally selling acts to the college market as well. And then again, it just naturally progressed into learning the other facets of the booking world, whether it's the corporates, the the colleges, cruise ships, corporate, all the other, all the C's of the comedy business,
Yeah.
churches,
So,
So
I'm fascinated by this. In the 90s, if like somebody's car broke down and they didn't get to a gig, how long would it take you to find that out?
man, I was pretty good at this. People still had cell phone, or excuse me, had used pay phones. Some of the tech savvy people had the flip phones, that the big Motorola ones, whatever
Were
they
it beepers? Was this beeper time?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, right in the mid '90s, there was definitely beepers and stuff. You paging people to, hey, call me back. I got a fallout and Tunica or whatever. And so yeah, I don't know. I prided myself that I was pretty good too, of knowing where all the comics were. Like if I had a fallout in Fort Walton, Florida, I knew immediately in my head, all right, I know 3 comics that live within an hour of that place. So I mean, those days are long gone because I don't book clubs anymore. But you had to have that knowledge to be a good agent, especially in like the Midwest or something. Like oh man, I need somebody in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And you're like, all right, comedian BT, he lives there. So it's just funny knowledge that you acquire over the years and doing this over and over again. So and then once I started my company, it was a whole nother thing. The internet was just popping off. And I remember just creating that avail system where I can just say, listen, here's what I've got. You reply to me if you're open and interested. Because that way, I didn't know what somebody was willing to drive to at that time for the amount of money. So it was good to flip it that way. Because when I first started, people were faxing in avails for literally, that's how they did it. They get it, go off to the fax machine, and you're trying to line up things of like, all right, I got a fallout here, and you're looking at the faxes that have come in, and like, all right, well, Kostaki Economopoulos is available, and he's not too far from that gig or whatever, So
That is amazing.
It's bananas.
Amazing. So you must have some great bad stories. What's the worst thing that ever happened with somebody not showing up, or I don't know, a gig not like showing up to a gig, but it's not exactly what you expected or they expected?
Dude, I've had horror stories. I mean, one of the reasons why, I got out of the club business, I mean, it's lucrative, obviously, if you have some good clients that pay the comics in a timely fashion. That's always good. But not always, you expect it, but it doesn't always happen. I've had the crazy cancellations, everything from, I had a comedian that shot himself in the hand by accident, so he couldn't make that gig, obviously. And he was down to 4 fingers after that. I've had a room in Vegas before where literally the promoter walked out and screwed over, the comedians for that week, and every week after that was booked, and the comedians were just left sitting there at the curb trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm wiring money to them to make sure they can get it to the next gig type scenario. So
brutal. And so back then, I mean, there's no Venmo or Zelle. So I like, our checks bouncing. Does that happen?
Oh yeah. Like I remember, I mean, I don't think she'd mind if I use her name. Cristela Alonso. She's pretty well known now. She's done really well for herself. I remember this was like the worst balanced check scenario where it was a gig in Idaho. It was a weekend club, and they just went under. The chains on the door or whatever, insert problem here. I don't remember why, but they had bounced the check from the week before, and she was like stranded, and just like, I need this money, so now I'm going to the bank, because no online banking, you're going to the bank and trying to figure out how to wire or Western Union or whatever payment to said individual.
Traveler's checks.
Yeah, all that stuff. I mean, it's crazy how technology changes, for the good or the better. But you have to adapt, and over the years. I mean, look at us right now doing this StreamYard video. This, if you had mentioned, back in the 1900s, you could just communicate this way. it's baffling. And I've always tried to be adept in the change and such, and I've done a lot of work in the college market, so I always had to kind of stay young and up to date with what's going on, and with these younger adults is it definitely a demographic that you and I keep getting older every year, but they really do stay the same age between 18 to 21. That's your demographics for the college market, so that never changes. So, yeah.
Is there any? So it sounds like there's a theme that these days it's easier, with the online and online banking and cell phones and whatnot. Is there anything that was easier back in the 90s in terms of comedy? You can think of anything you miss?
I don't miss it. Especially, starting out a new business too. I've done pretty well for myself with my company, and it's difficult. This business is difficult. I don't know how long you've been a comedian or like in this business. It's not an easy, gig. So, and it's just, and I think comics think it's easier on my side of the fence, but it's not. I mean, there's hurdles to jump through on everything. So with any business, so perfect example. I mean, when's the last time you heard of a new comedy agency starting? It just doesn't happen that often. So, I mean, I can't name you, 20 comedy agencies in the US that are successful and thriving. So I feel like, I'm good at it. I've weathered all the comedy storms, and I've made it 26 years. I mean, there's some other agencies out there that, I know and see at a lot of the comedy festivals and such, but it's definitely not easy. So
where do you go to network? You've been around 25 years. Where is the, like, I don't even know what the equivalent would be, but a CES in technology, what is the, I don't know. Was it JFL? But JFL's gone now.
Yeah. I mean, so when I go to festivals and such, I try to actually, there are the fun ones. I call them the fun ones, and the ones that I'm actually kind of looking for. So like at JFL, it's very rare that I walked away with somebody that I could use, like in, say, exclusivity type thing, whether it's bringing somebody on the college market or cruise ship market, because they're usually already, once they get there, they've already got representation. And although they do have the, over the years, they changed to like an unrepped, new faces, they were still always repped.
Yeah.
I mean, there was definitely, some representation involved, or, I think it was just another avenue for people to get their clients seen. So, but I do obviously like going to JFL when it was in full force.
How long would you go for? It was like months. Was there like a specific week you would go?
The festival was usually like 2 weeks, formally. Yeah. And it was mostly like a 7-day, like, the main industry was there. And I would go like Wednesday through Sunday, or Thursday through Sunday. Never too much. I mean, it's still comedy, and it still becomes work, Watching comedy sure is fun, but like, when you do this for a living, I don't go to see a whole lot of comedy shows just for fun. So I love music. I go see concerts all the time for fun. Thank goodness I didn't go into the music business, because I probably wouldn't enjoy it.
It'd be ruined for you
as I do now. So So I did that just mostly for fun. I do go. There's a couple of festivals that I really like, and I'm invited back quite a bit. And that's Big Pine Comedy Festival. I'm going to that next month, actually, in Phoenix area.
Yep.
And then the week immediately after that is the Big Sky Comedy Festival,
Montana,
which is also run by some comedians, and they do it really well. And it's a pretty good event.
Do you do panel stuff, like answer questions? And
I do. I am an expert in my field, so they bring me in, and I really do enjoy them, because I'm the I know I'm probably the norm, and or not the norm of the agent world, that I really know that it goes both ways. I can't be in business without new, fresh faces, and I know that they need me, and I need them. So I don't take it for granted. I watch all new faces. I give them feedback. whether or not they want to hear it or not, because sometimes people don't like to hear the brutal truth and honest truth, I guess. But I'm just honest, and I like to see, and I love seeing new people thrive and say, hey, you're not quite ready now, but you've got something. And I've had so many people come back to me and say that to me. One recently, this happened not that long ago. I don't know if, do you know Hannibal Buress?
Yeah, sure, of course.
So he was at a festival or a NACA, a college conference, and he came up to me and he said, he gave me a glowing review of like how nice I was to him at a comedy festival in Vegas years ago. I don't remember meeting him because I meet a lot of comics, but I was like, oh, that's cool that he, at least gave me that data. There's probably lots of famous comedians that I don't remember meeting, but I've seen over the years because it just happens. I mean, I've been in it so long. It's 29 years total since I've been in this business, and 26 with my own company. So I've seen a lot of shit. So,
have you ever gotten on stage? Were you a comic in the beginning? Is that how you got into it, or no?
Never. No, I I booked all the entertainment for my campus club, and that kind of was my jam. Again, I was a huge music fan. Mm-hmm. I always, people, anytime they ask like, how did you get in this business? I always say Sex Police. There was a band called the Sex Police that was coming to my college, and I loved this band. And I was like, oh man, I was a broke college kid and didn't want to spend the $10 or whatever to go see it. And somebody had says like, hey, if you join this campus activities board, you get to go see the Sex Police for free and every show after that. I go, holy shit, sign me up. So that's literally how I got into it. And then my senior year, I was booking some pretty big bands, like Dave Matthews Band, Ed McCain, Hootie and the Blowfish, that kind of whole genre during that time. Tribe Called Quest, some really pretty good bands that were thriving in that time. And I remember it was the November of '94, my senior year, and I took the Dave Matthews Band out to dinner, and Dave Matthews asked me, like, well, what do you want to do? You're a senior. What are you going to do? I was like, this. I don't know what this is, but just hanging out with like fun people. That's what I want to do. And he's like, you should do it, man.
That's like, amazing.
And then fast forward, less than a year later, I'm in the comedy business. So.
Amazing. All right, let's talk about cruise ships a little bit. I don't really know anything. I know that cruise ships now have like comedy clubs on them. I work with a lot of comics that work cruise ships. I've heard that there's a hierarchy. There's like Carnival, and then you got like Princess, maybe closer to the top. But I don't really know a lot about the cruise business. Tell us about getting into that, and I don't know.
All right. Yeah, I can tell you what I know.
Sure.
As far as, again, with the adapting and changing with the times and such, that was one of the avenues of my business that when I first started, I never even had my sights set on the cruise ship market. I was when I first started, was the clubs and colleges. And then after a while, it was more colleges. And then kind of phased the clubs out. And then I did more colleges and corporates. And currently it's more colleges, corporates, and cruise ships. So it's as far as my business goes, it's relatively new, arm of the comedy wheel that I've been extending myself into, but I like it. I'm definitely not an expert, but I'm trying to grow and such. There's a lot of comics that, when I first started back in the day, it was more like, oh, that's where you go when your career's dying. On the back end, you go into the boats. But now to see so many clubs having a hard time staying open and such, that the consistent level of work and supply of work that is available through the cruise ships, it's definitely inviting for a lot of comics. And it's, some of them pay better than others. And again, talk about the pecking scale. Carnival is at the lower end, but also Carnival has the most work available in the entire world as far as comedy goes. There's 25. I did the math once. It was 2,500 weeks of work available
a year.
Yes, between all their boats, and every boat has 2 comedians on it. It's crazy how much work is available there. So if you are in with somebody, say Carnival, and I have a lot of people in with them now, and I've gotten their calendars filled up in like one email before. Like,
Wow.
hey, we're booking this year, and send us your avails, and then you send them the avails, and then they get every single thing. Like
It's pretty
everything
far out, right? So like now you'd be booking what, 25 or 26?
Right now, Carnival just sent out about a week ago. Hey, we're booking fourth quarter 25.
Wow. So
Yeah.
right now for everybody, it's August 2024. Uh,
Yeah.
so over a
Yeah. So
year.
a year. Yeah. So it is interesting sending your avails, and you're like, please include vacations and stuff, or holidays, because they need to know if you can book, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So literally, I'm asking my clients to update their avails, my comics, and say, hey, make sure or I know you got to think about, Christmas of 25 a year from now. So are
Yeah.
you available to work then? So
Right.
yeah, it's crazy. I do find that I guess the cons of the cruise ship market would be, for me personally as an agent, that it's hard to get new faces in, because it's I think taking a risk, as an agent, in that market, the shit rolls downhill thing. So
Sure.
if they bring on somebody new and it doesn't work, they get looked down upon, like, hey, you clearly didn't vet this person enough or whatever. So, but I get that. Being in this market as long as I've been, I just know that it is difficult, and you got to really trust somebody to get the work done. So if they've got 100 comics that they know that are tried and true and working for them, and they don't have a whole lot of spots left open, yeah, I get it that it's a little bit difficult for to bring on those new faces. But I'm persistent, and as an agent, that's my job, to get my clients in with other avenues. So whether some of them I have in with multiple boats, and some of them they're like, all right, I'm only in. This person is only in with Carnival, but not with Norwegian, or vice versa. So it's just a good agent, just that's what they do. And
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the type of material that the comics have for these different cruises?
sure. Yeah. And it's different. Every cruise line is different. So if you go with the Carnival, they have a setup to where you need 3 different 30-minute sets. One of those 30 minutes needs to be family friendly. And when they say family friendly, there's children in the crowd, like literally babies, and like you might have a 4-year-old like talking to you during the set or whatever. So it's a unique environment. It's obviously different from any comedy club they've ever performed in. So you have to be able to have that gear or that extra tool in your toolbox to be able to incorporate that kind of material into that. So usually they have the other 30 minutes. They don't mind. It's like billed as an adult show and such. But this is very funny because I just had this conversation. I was in at the beach in Carolina Beach a couple of weeks ago, and I overheard somebody. I was in line at coffee. I overheard somebody talking about they saw a comedian the weekend before on a cruise ship, and I was just listening to him, and she was saying how raunchy this comic was, and it's like, and she wasn't very flattering towards it. And then I just had to ask, sorry to interrupt, but and I kind of broke it down, and they're like, I was like, what time was your show? She's like, it was like at midnight. It's like, so, well, you went to the wrong show.
Right.
Like, if you wanted clean comedy, you should have gone to the 8:00 family show. And she's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And, she was probably drunk and didn't pay attention to the signage and whatever. And so I'm still defending comics. I like on my vacation randomly in a coffee line, but because, so every show is tailored towards a certain audience. So,
right.
Yeah.
Huh.
But then some of these cruise lines, like the higher end ups, like say Oceanic or whatever, that those are definitely more costly to go on, and their clientele is different. The clientele from like a Oceanic or Holland America is usually a little bit different from, say, the entry level Carnival cruise ship, because it's just simple, you get what you pay for type scenario. And
right.
If you're spending $400 on a cruise that's going down to, Key West and Nassau, it's usually a little bit different if you're going to like Athens, Greece or something. So,
right.
Yeah.
And so do most cruises do comedy now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I
how
have
does that international stuff work? Like if you're doing comedy in Athens, Greece, or in the water outside of Athens, does everybody speak English? Is that
um,
like the universal comedy language?
yeah, I think so. I don't think, I mean, they might not, speak English themselves, but it definitely caters. I mean, if you're on a Royal Caribbean cruise line that's going out of there, yeah, typically it's gonna work as far as American comics and such. But yes, every one of them that I know of has comedy on them. So
Huh. And is the material? I imagine the material is different. Like you can't
well,
necessarily make a joke about the Chicago Bears in
sure,
Greece.
but that's any location, right? If you're doing a gig in Tallahassee, Florida, and you're from Jersey, and some of
Yeah,
the local jokes aren't flying down in Tallahassee, that's just, you got to adapt to anywhere you are, whether you're in Tallahassee, uh,
right.
on
But
the
that seems like an extreme to have to be, because like I mean, I guess everybody has parents, everybody eats bread.
right. But
You
then
have to have.
again, you'd have to know that your material is bulletproof in any
Yeah,
venue. So if you can't adapt and change, you probably shouldn't be on those boats in the first place.
right,
Most of the people that are doing the boats, are seasoned comics that have been in it for 10 to 15 years,
yeah,
to have that kind of, again, tools in your toolbox to be able to adapt and change to your environment, and your location, ahead of time. And it isn't like you're just getting on that boat like you you got booked, a day out or whatever. I mean, there's a process. You got to get vetted by the organization. You have to go through. I mean, you're getting hired as, through a corporation, so there's drug tests
right,
involved, and there's all these things. There's background checks, for every cruise line and such. These are things that you usually have 6 to 9 months before you get even green lit from any of those boats, before you get set sail on one of those boats.
right.
So
So logistically, like if you're going to Athens, that's not like a one nighter. Are you on the road for a month? Are you on a boat, different boats for a month, or is it like a week, or how does that work?
yeah, for international stuff, usually it's at least a week. So, and again, going against the clubs versus the cruise ship market. I mean, clubs, you get booked if you're not a name act. They just say, all right, you're booked. Say you're getting $1,500 for the week. You have to get yourself there. They might put you up, but they usually don't pay travel expenses. And every cruise ship pays 100% of your travel, your lodging, and your meals. So, I mean, that doesn't happen with clubs again. So when going back to the where your career goes to die, I mean, this could be is definitely a thriving market if they're paying everything. I mean, they even pay your Uber from your house to the boat, or from
To
your
the
hotel,
airport?
or wherever
Yeah.
or the airport. They pay that and expense it, and they will pay you back right there on the boat. So there's literally no dollars out of your pocket are being spent to get to those cruise
Wh-
ships. So,
Which cruise line has the best reputation for taking care of talent?
well, that's a great question that I probably don't. Not the best to answer that, because I'm not on that side of the fence. So I'm on. I just know the pros and cons of the agents that I like to work with at certain cruise lines, and I don't need to reveal all that, but
Sure.
I think that I mean, there's pros and cons probably to every single one of those different lines. So, but again, I, you know, don't know all those because I'm not on those boats daily. I don't go on cruise ships. I've been on cruises, but it isn't like I get like a free pass just because I book book comics on them. Um,
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're about ready to wrap this up.
Hey man.
Anything we haven't touched on in the world of comedy these days? We did cruises. You talked about clubs, one nighters, maybe corporates, or I don't
Well, if
know.
you have any specific questions, I'm an open book, man.
Okay. I am kind of curious how like how much of your work is routing, like you got a New York based comic and you're sending them to a club one weekend in Seattle. Like do you try to get them in San Francisco the next weekend, or is it constantly like flying out, flying home, flying out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for me, routing is no longer an issue. Back in the club days, maybe, but yeah, I don't worry about that because most of the things that I book now, that I mean, they're 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 getting a pretty good paycheck for, and they don't have to worry about like skimping and collecting pennies to get to the next gig. So I'm good booking guys that like, hey, you may do a corporate gig on a Friday night and then fly to across the country for a college the next day. So and it's worth their while financial to do that. So and then hopping on another cruise ship, whatever after that, and the cruise ship market's great too. If you tell them in advance, they'll fly you out of anywhere. So that's like a huge perk for a lot of my clients that like, hey, I'm doing a college gig in Arkansas. Can you fly me out of Little Rock to get to Nassau the next day or Grand Cayman or whatever? And they'll do that. They don't care. They need to get you there. They're booking a ticket anyway. Sometimes it's even cheaper for them to do it that way. So it's convenient on the comics end that way. So
yeah, is your business seasonal? Would you say like holiday times are the busiest?
I'd say the slowest time is, and it's traditionally across the board with, I think most agents in the comedy business that the summer is a little bit slower than anything else. Because being a third of my business, the colleges are gone. So there's no, bookings for that, typically. And there's definitely no, there's a couple of orientation shows maybe during the summer here and there, but like starting this week, next week, I mean, the college market is bananas. So, I mean, I just did all my follow-ups I had 7 colleges just last night have shows. So I do all my follow-ups the next day to see how they went. So like this week, and then do all the advanced stuff and looping in the comics and such. So it's now in the college market. It's like crazy. Like in the college market, most agents will probably even tell you this. You'll make more in the last 2 weeks in August in the college market. You'll make more in these 2 weeks than any other month in the entire year.
Wow.
That's traditionally the way it works for me, because every school has to entertain these new students in some way, shape, or form when they get back to school.
So, how many comics do you have in your roster or whatever? Is it
about 25, 28 range?
I was thinking hundreds.
No,
okay.
I could. I mean,
sure.
Trust me, every day I get a comedian asking to be a part of that. But I've been doing it so long, and I guess it goes back to the same thing as like the cruise ships. Like it's the tried and true. It's hard to take risk and some new faces.
Yeah.
And such. But I do take risk.
And those 25, 28, they mailed you a VHS tape, or you saw them at a festival. Is that usually where you track people down?
Some at festivals, some still just the old, like, hey, here's a YouTube link, watch me. And I mean, I maybe bring on a new college comedian every 1 to 2 years, if that.
Wow.
I mean, to be honest with you.
And they don't age out on you?
Some do, and that's usually when I bring on a new one.
Okay.
When I let somebody go, I bring on somebody new. It's kind of, and it's also, I mean, it's a great example of like, if you don't wear a shirt in your closet for a year, if you haven't, like, you get rid of that typically, right?
Right.
Or you should. You don't. Why is it there? So I had the same premise with some of my college acts. Like, listen, I've been submitting you for over a year and nobody's even booked you. So why would you, like, I've got to let you go. I mean, that's not me telling you that you're not suitable for this market. It's the market telling you. So it's kind of like an out, but it's 100% accurate though. So
Chuck Johnson, the Marie Kondo of comedy. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not brain surgery what I do over here. So
yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we gotta shut this down. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Sorry this wasn't live. You couldn't ask questions, but we'll probably next week. It is live. Chuck Johnson. I don't think he wants to be found. So normally I'd say like, how do people find you? I'm pretty sure
I'll always look though. I'll always give you at least 2 minutes of any submission. I'll always look and just I'll be very transparent.
You've been very educational and a huge source of knowledge. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap